else more important than becoming present and living in the moment. Breathing in that intent. Breathing in that state of relaxation. Silence. We're a cozy little group today. I think Jerry's ET blending event that starts at 10:30 has gotten a lot of people there, so good for them. It's going to be a wonderful event. And I will be dashing out right at about 11:10 to go over there and work with Hewitt this afternoon. So if anybody wants to go, you can. I think they have a whole day session price and a half-a-day session price. So the half-a-day session price, you just pay one small entrance fee, and you get tickets to go and see whatever healers that you want. And so Cynthia Crawford's going to be there from Arizona, and she's the lady that does these little ET sculptures. This is a Nephilim. Nefertiti was a Nephilim. So if you're into all the ETs and learning all about them, that's a great place to go this afternoon. And I think Jerry's going to have his event back here at the end of October, beginning of October 22nd. And we'll turn the whole room into the blending event. So it's a fun event. So if you don't get over there this afternoon, you can join ours in October. Thank you, Jason. This is Jason Day, our guest musician. Those of you that know Jason, we met many, many years ago. He was the piano tutor for our 4 children. And 2 of them showed somewhat promise, and 2 of them just did it because Mom and Dad said so. He knows which 2 are which.
Yeah, remain anonymous.
But 2 of them showed a lot of musical talent, and were very diverse. But Jason was with us for probably 6 years teaching the kids piano.
Yeah.
And Jason and I used to go out on the front porch after he would teach the kids piano, and we would talk about metaphysics. And this was in the really early days when we were still discovering what a guide was and how they came to talk to you. And we stood on the front sidewalk outside our front door many nights for an hour.
Yeah.
So those were fun days. So thank you for being here, and
of course.
For being part of our
Thank
service.
you for having me.
And this is Carol Quinn. Many of you know Carol. She's been associated with the temple since the early days, 3 years ago when we were in the smaller suite. You and Deborah Shea were probably the 2 earliest practitioners that knew us when we were over in the little white closet. I was like, oh. It was, yeah. But we've come a long way.
Yeah, absolutely.
In this, so thank you for your continued support over the years. Carol has been a practitioner here. She's been an instructor here. She's a regular participant in our Holistic Healing Day. And you do a myriad of things. You do astrology and tarot and Ericksonian hypnosis and anything else that I'm missing.
Well, as I heard you so perfectly say a few minutes ago, whatever comes to me, to do.
Yeah.
So, and I notice at this point in time that's increasing.
Yeah, it is, I think, for all of us. Yeah. But the topic for today is Ericksonian hypnosis, and I did a little bit of research on it. And Milton Erickson, the founder, was really controversial in his time. It was very outside normal hypnosis technique. So why don't you tell us a little bit about it, how you got involved, why you like it, and how you integrate it into the work that you do?
Okay. Well, I should say to begin with, I did not set out to do hypnosis. So it's sort of one of those things that came to me through a series of events. And I remember in my early 20s, I had a problem with some pain in my neck. And I thought, I need to go to a hypnotist or a hypnotherapist. I knew nothing about it. So that was my first experience as not someone who did Ericksonian hypnosis. But when I was getting my master's degree in family counseling, I had an opportunity to take a course in hypnosis for a therapist that was being taught by a woman whose name was Melba Finkelstein. Melba Finkelstein was a very dear friend and student of Milton Erickson. And that's the style of hypnosis that she taught. And it's different than traditional hypnosis. And so I found it in the beginning, I remember feeling like, well, this is very interesting, not something I want to do. But
We've all said things like that.
yeah, I did want to be an astrologer, I knew that. I'm a child of the 60s and astrology became popular, so I had my course set kind of for that. So anyway, through a series of events after that, I was connected with the Akashic Bookshop in Thousand Oaks, California. And they just started sending me people. So that's kind of how it got started. And although I used the framework, the style of Ericksonian hypnosis, over the years I've been guided in a little different way to use it, with a much more spiritual bent to it.
So what I read about Ericksonian was that traditional hypnotherapy is where the hypnotherapist gives you suggestions. And what Milton Erickson said was, that's okay for laymen, for people who are followers, just to get a suggestion and be told something, but people are being more discerning and having more critical thinking, and you've got to get down to a deeper level. And he was one of the first ones that started creating a technique that was in alignment with neuro-linguistic programming, that got into the subconscious and started realizing there were anchors, or what we call triggers, that are governing the behaviors. And so this was the really early stages in the 60s and the 70s. When he first started doing this, nobody was doing anything like that. It's so commonplace now, so he's really a pioneer in the field. And he talks about different processes and different ways, and the triggers, and what does he call them? There's something in there. There was the handshake, and he had certain things that he formulated that were brand new at the time. And
ways to excuse me, ways to access the unconscious.
Access the unconscious.
Access the unconscious, to sidestep any resistance that might be in that critical mind.
And he was the one that formulated the idea of not putting somebody in a trance state, but having them be wide awake. He was a pioneer in that, from what I understand, where before they would do the this and get you into a trance, and he was the one that said, no, it's better if they're wide awake and they witness the process of what's going on. And that was really unique in the time as well. Now, what's the relationship between Ericksonian hypnosis and neuro-linguistic program? I kept seeing links
Well,
where they...
Ericksonian, Brinder and Bandler studied what Milton Erickson did and systematized it and developed neuro-linguistic programming from that. So they took his framework, which he just did by observing. He had polio as a young man and was strapped in a chair, and they didn't think he was going to live. And so he really observed people and his own process. They studied him.
Which is interesting to see the trail, because neuro-linguistic program was what things like Psych K were developed on, and then things like theta healing was developed on Psych K. So this has all been a really beautiful trail of what society was willing to start accepting, and how we can reprogram our minds. And of course we know now that all we have to do is go and visit some kind of thought or anchor, find the association, and we have the ability to completely realign how we emotionally associate with something. And this was all founded from this man. So I mean, he should be a lot of accolades for being forefront in this thinking.
Amazing, definitely.
So how do you integrate it? So what you're saying is the framework that he developed is, of course, has been updated over the years, and it's probably a lot like theta healing and all the Psych Ks, that how it's developed now over the years. I'm sure it's not being used now as the way it was originally in the 60s and 70s.
Well, because of the nature of the technique, it lends itself to all sorts of different ways of using it. And I have my own particular way of using hypnosis. And your question was?
And how do you use it on yourself?
Well, how do I use it on myself?
Or do you use it on yourself?
I don't often use it on myself.